Well, welcome to Ravensdale Bible Academy. Today's course, Think Again Christian Fact Check. Our lesson is free, free, free. In this slide, you'll see that the Democratic or the liberal answer to everything is free. Or more accurately, throw more money at it. It's just that you're not going to pay for it. So it's free. Except somebody has to pay for it, right? Well, maybe you've noticed that the answer for every liberal, and whether it's at statewide or federal, is always going to be throw more money at it, throw more money. The problem is solved by the solution of just give more money, and you don't have to pay for it. Somebody else will. Somebody else will pay. So free healthcare, free college, free housing. If you don't make enough money, hey, free cell phones, stimulus check for let's give you free money, and if it's not enough money, we'll give you more free money. Well, somebody at some point of time is supporting this. We call it welfare, right? And in this case, everybody receives welfare. In fact, in America today, we see that some of the biggest welfare checks are going to big giant corporations are being supported. And so what we want to look at is this idea of is free the answer? Is free the answer? To illustrate my point, I was head of a Christian school district, and being head of a Christian school district and having several schools involved in a multi-million-dollar budget and over 100 personnel, one of the things that we looked at was, well, it's supply and demand, right? You can't charge too much per pupil because the demand is going to stop, right? And so your supply of seats, how many seats you have, how many schools you have, is limited as well. And so what you're trying to do is balance off that perfect price point per pupil in order to allow a typical Christian family to afford to send 3 or 4 children to school. So we've got that to navigate as well. Well, where most Christian schools end up falling as far as their average price per pupil is way out of sync with how much they charge. And so typically Christian schools have a lot of fundraisers, and they kind of make up the difference in their budget that way. But the underlining truth of it is the welfare is coming from somebody. I mean, somebody's closing the gap. Somebody has to close the gap. And the dirty little secret in Christian education is the teachers do. The average teacher in the local public school is making twice as much as a Christian school teacher. The local Christian public school has retirement and has full benefits. Typically, a Christian school teacher doesn't have retirement and doesn't have benefits. So they get half the pay, and they get no benefits, and they get no retirement. Well, that money that would go to the teachers actually is going to keep the price down for the students. So it's not that the money is just magically disappears. The money is being supported by the welfare of the teachers, and then you kick in also, well, you have financial aid and that kind of a thing, and you see that there's floating free money, but somebody at the end of the day is going to have to pay. Well, we want to look at this situation. We want to look is free the answer to everything? I mean, look, I'm sympathetic. I was the head of a school, and I had to review different families and their financial situation, their family structure, single moms. I've pored over countless financial aid reviews and prayed over it and even wept over some situations because we so desperately wanted the family and the student to be able to attend. So I'm very, very sympathetic. But on the business side of things, I have teachers that would like to eat too. I have administrators that would like to eat. And so we have to have real solutions to real problems, and free can't be the answer because everything costs money. And so let me give you some real examples, right? Real problems that require real solutions and not just throwing money at them. And I'll give you a real quick proof of that. Homelessness, education, and poverty. The homeless problem, the education problem, and poverty. We spend more money on these things and these resources. We spend millions, we spend billions. The problem is not solved, right? So the proof of that money, free money doesn't work is that we still haven't solved the problem. So we should understand or already have an understanding that's not going to be how this situation is resolved. And so today's fact check is a little bit different than normal because we're kind of we want to look at our logic train, right? We want to have an understanding of, well, we have some fixed numbers, and we'll get to those in a little bit, but I think we're going to start with the logic first and then kind of look at some data second. What we want to do is look at homelessness, right? And so the homeless number then is outrageous. I live in Seattle. We have a huge homeless population. So let's understand this. If you provide programs where people can continuously get free, do you think you'll increase the amount of people taking advantage of the free, or solve the problem? You'll increase it. If you become the mecca and the source of where people know they don't have to work and they can get free resources, well, guess what? More and more people will come. And we've seen this true in Los Angeles. We've seen this true in San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle as well. So they're not solving the problem. That's a fact. What we need to do is start training people how to work, and we have to give them skills and support to teach them how to fish, not to just give them fish. If you give them fish, you're going to have to keep giving them fish. You're going to have to give them more fish, and then you're going to have to give all the other people who want free fish too. Do you see the point? The second piece I want to look at is education. I'm in education. I've been in Christian education. I've been in public school education, and there's tons of money that is poured into our local school districts. Let me ask you a question. I'm a sports guy. I played college sports. My kids played sports. I love sports. I love baseball. I love football. I played those sports. I love watching the other sports. Do we need turf fields at high school sports? We don't. It's nice. I mean, they're beautiful. They're nice to play on, but they're not mandatory, right? Do we need multi-million-dollar gyms to have plays for the drama team? No, we don't. Do we need multi-million-dollar buildings? No, we don't. And so what we see throughout the education system is an outpouring of tremendous funds, but little results. And so we see an increase in programs. Right now in Iowa, they're rolling out their Black Lives Matter campaign. Hey, look, I want us to be sensitive to life. I want us to be sensitive to injustice where there's injustice. But let's not cloud Black Lives Matter with an issue like transsexual gender identity or homosexuality, which is the Black Lives Matter movement. There's no place in public school education for that. I don't pay my taxes to support an ideology that I do not support. I pay my taxes so that children can learn how to read, so that they can learn how to write with comprehension, and so that they can learn arithmetic, they can learn how to add. And you know what? When you compare America to the world, we're failing. We're finishing like 26th and 15th in these areas. We finished first in our self-esteem. We think we're great, even though we're not. It's sad and it's shameful. We pour all this money in, but you know what? We're doing everything but teaching. And I can speak from firsthand experience that schools are doing this. And so it's not about money. It's about actually teaching real subjects to our students instead of clouding them and overwhelming them with the minutia of social justice warrior politics and just social news, social constructs like that than actual real education. Let me turn you to scripture. When we evaluate this, when we take a look at the idea of free, right away I want you to think about this. I want you to think in terms of, well, there are those out there who need help, right? I mean, there's a lot of people who need the support and the help of others. And so what about that? Are we insensitive to that? Absolutely so. May it never be. But let's start here with the scriptures. 1 Timothy 5:8 says this, that if you don't provide for your own household, then you're worse than an infidel. You're worse than an unbeliever. So the scriptures command that you as the head of the household, that you know what, you need to provide, you need to go to work. That's your responsibility and obligation. In Proverbs 6, chapter 6, verse 6 through 11, we see this great illustration of the ant. Go to the ant. We are to learn from the ant. Go to the ant, O sluggard. That suggests that you're lazy and not doing what you can and should do. Go to the ant, O sluggard, observe her ways and be wise, which having no chief, there's nobody there who makes demands, officer or ruler, prepares her food in the summer and gathers her provision in the harvest. How long will you lie down, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little slumber, folding of the hands to rest, and your poverty will come in like a vagabond, and your need like an armed man. So what we see is, look, you are required to be a worker. You're required to grind. There's no promise in the Bible that you're going to be rich and wealthy. The beauty of America is that you have the equal opportunity to the access, right? Equal opportunity to the access of opportunity, not equal outcome. There's no possible way that we can guarantee every single person is going to end up having the equal outcome. We can't all have the same job in a company. I mean, think about this. You got a company, you got 300 people, all 300 people are the CEO. It doesn't work that way, right? We can't all make the same amount of money. There's different skill levels. What about people who've been working longer? What about people who do more? What about people who work longer hours? That doesn't make any sense at all. We have people with special, unique skills and gifts and talents that we all want. I use the example of Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is a country music star, right? If she sells her songs for $2 each, that's not a lot of money, right? Nobody should get mad at her for selling her music that she wrote, that she performs, that people like. It's her IP, her intellectual property. If she can sell 2 million songs for $2 each, what is she worth? 2 million songs at $2 each, she's worth $4 million. She's worth every cent. She produced something and she sold it. Now, don't get mad at her if 20 billion people want to buy her music, right? Now, 20 billion times $2 is $40 billion. Say, Taylor Swift makes too much money. Well, based on what? Should she give it to you? You don't sing, you don't write, you don't perform, nobody's buying your music. Whatever job you have, whatever skill you have, as awesome as it might be, until people are willing to pay to watch you work, like they do in the NFL or the NBA, or or a movie star or somebody on Broadway. Listen, I'm sorry, but supply and demand comes into effect. And so some people have unique skills and there's a short supply of it, and people are willing to pay to use it, to watch it, to eat it, to drive it, whatever. We see in Galatians 6:7 that God says you will reap what you sow. The harder you work, the luckier you'll get. The harder you work, the more you will reap. The more you plant, the more will grow, the more you'll have harvest. And so there's a biblical principle here that, you know what, if you work, you won't need the free. If you work hard, you won't need the free. Now, with that being said, let me be very, very clear here. As a Christian, as a believer in the scriptures, we're also called to have hearts of compassion. God loves a cheerful giver. He loves a cheerful giver. We are called by scripture out of our generous hearts, out of our not by force, but by our decision to help and to serve others. And so that's one of the big differences between the government commanding that you give, the government taking your money to give to somebody else, and the Bible, which says, well, look, you should have a heart of compassion. You should care about the widow, the orphan, the poor. And James 1:27 says, there's no other pure, undefiled religion than taking care of those in need, those in greatest need, right? Like a widow, an orphan, or the poor. You look at stories like, Luke 10, the Good Samaritan. We're called to help people who are in distress. And so don't use the idea of personal responsibility that people should be workers and be like the ant, and for you to use that as a wedge or a weapon to be angry with them or uncompassionate. We're called to be compassionate. And that's part of the reason why we shouldn't have to rely on government to help. We have family, we have church, we have volunteers that can help come in to save the day with these situations. Allow people to do that. One of the things that the Bible talks about is that there will always be poor, and there will always be poor people, and there will always be rich people. There will always be people who are gifted with a unique ability, who have maybe better minds, better skill sets, who will put in above and beyond the work effort, and who will not stop until they thrive and succeed. You can't stop them. That's the problem with socialism, is there will always be people who will want to rise and rip through the middle of the road. They want more. You can't stop them. And then there will be people who will take advantage of this and want to do nothing. And that's the problem with where we're at here, is now we have too many people who just want free, free, free. Again, if we use logic, if you don't have to work to eat, well, then there's going to be a large percentage of people who won't work to eat. If you want real solutions to real problems, well, then you have to have action steps. I used to work with Seattle's Union Gospel Mission. We worked with the homeless. And so, you know what, if you have a homeless guy and you need to clean him up, right? Fix his teeth, get him healthy, get him some health care, brush his hair. We used to bring in people that gave haircuts. And so get them back in a healthy mode. We had legal services to help them straighten out their legal situations. Then we would give them education, and they had online education, which is part of the reason why I got into online education. And then job training. Not only do they need to know how to read and write an ad, but they also need a real life job skill to take it outside, and then help them. We would provide them with internships. They had jobs throughout the organization that they can do. And we did this for a short period of time. It wasn't forever. It was a short period of time. And in this cycle, then we could teach that man how to fish, so that, in 2-3 short years, now he no longer needed the free service. And so when we look at somebody claiming, hey, we've got this great big giant welfare program, we can pay out all this money. You're talking about like $361 billion. Fact check. Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay $361 billion? When we look at education, the cost of education, $66 billion a year for education. The more money we spend, the worse they get. In Seattle alone, the price per person per month can get up to $8,000. That means they're spending $8,000 a month. The government, the taxpayer, is spending $8,000 a month. That would pencil out to about $99,000 a year. The taxpayer is supporting a homeless person $99,000 a year to be homeless. Think about that for a second. Let that sink in. Free is not the answer. If you keep giving things out for free, well, then more people will come and you'll have to give out more things for free. One of the other things that we should think about is, have you ever heard the expression, you get what you pay for? You get what you pay for? These free services, these free help aids, they're not helpful. They're actually crippling. We cripple those who are in greatest need when we give them too much free stuff. It's a very dangerous thing. And so don't forget that the money has to come from somewhere. Typically, that then comes from the working class. So the taxes that support the free are just normal blue-collar workers who are just trying to make it themselves. So when you see free, 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 beware. May God richly bless you.